I think that our souls, the theory is that we have similar conversations prior to coming to being reincarnated and say, okay, here's what I need to learn. I need to learn in this lifetime. I really want to work on self-love. And somebody else, another soul that you're connected to, says, I will go with you and play your father in this lifetime and really treat you like crap, so that the only way you're going to find happiness in your life is if you learn self-love. So basically what you're saying is, I want to be miserable and I want to always have an excuse for why I'm miserable because you won't do what I'm asking you to do. And what I started to notice is that the biggest thing that I was seeing over and over again in my practice is that one thing that a lot of my clients had in common was that their solution was, I'm going to tell the people in my life how screwed up they are and what I need them to do differently so that I can be happy.
Okay, I cleaned the ship, I saged the deck, journaled my feelings. So, where's my guest?
Welcome aboard. Coordinates confirmed. Termination point. Emotional contracts identified. Voice clearing sequence initiated. Your guide for this voyage. Becc Nelson, therapist, pattern breaker, contract rewriter. Brace yourself, Captain. This is not a soft landing. The Council welcomes you. Aboard the Clarity Cruiser.
Hello, Captain LA here of the Ethereal Voyager. It's nice to connect with you today.
Well, thanks for welcoming me aboard.
Awesome. And every time I run into a new traveler, I have a little game just to break the ice, and it's called the Cosmic Wheel of Wisdom. So you get to spin the wheel, it lands on a random question, and you can answer.
Okay.
You're ready when you are.
Go ahead.
All right, let's go.
Take my chances.
And we have... What would your cosmic drag persona be called? That's a very interesting question.
Cosmic drag persona. That is an interesting question. He's on the spot. Cosmic, like I'm dressed in drag?
Yeah, I guess if it was a drag race in space. Interesting
Okay.
question.
I would, of course, fancy myself one of the Skywalkers. So maybe I'm Lola Skywalker.
I like that. Lola Skywalker. Awesome. Yeah, that's an interesting question. If I had to answer that myself, ooh, that's a hard one. I guess that's why I don't tend to answer these questions. But, I don't know. Good one. I really don't know. But I like yours. Lola Skywalker sounds awesome.
It's kind of like Sasha Fierce, right? I can just be somebody completely different from me.
Yes, and that's true. And I think it's hard for me because I have so many personas, but I live them all. It just depends on how I'm feeling in that moment.
Truth.
So let's jump into this. So first I want to ask you, first of all, I noticed that the therapy culture has become very prevalent, which I think is awesome, that it's become so accessible to everyone. And also what I've noticed is within that is we're seeing more people being able to really talk about spirituality in those places that were traditionally no. Where and when do you think that merge kind of started to happen?
Several years back, and I think it probably began with the American Psychiatric Society, something like that, where I'm trying to think of the actual, when you're under pressure, you can't think of the name of things, but when we have to do what's in the therapeutic world, we have to do what's called a psychosocial assessment. And part of that assessment is to figure out where, people's history, both physical and socially, that sort of thing. But it also really, I'm going to say at least 20 years ago, started to understand the importance of spiritual health. And they started adding questions about, your spirituality quite some time ago. I just think it took a long time for it to kind of catch on in the therapeutic world, as far as the importance of, like, your health is really not just your emotional health, but also your physical and your spiritual health. And I think that they always sort of knew that, but they didn't pay as much attention to it and start assessing and start having therapists pay more attention to teaching people about how important that is to your overall health as well. I think it's been, so I think, was it the American Psychologists Association, really has actually known that and put it out for a long time. It's just a matter of, it was always thought of as more of an Eastern philosophy of health, and we've been sort of merging that for quite some time, actually. It's just now catching on. People are starting to be more what we would call woke and understanding the importance.
Right, right. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I love the fact that we are kind of circling back to traditional practices and really understanding that health is like a full spectrum, a trinity of the mind, body, and soul, and you cannot really have one without the other. So really looking at the bigger picture of things and not just diagnosing it or medicating it, I should say.
Yes, and I think that people thought that, well, I work out every day or I watch what I eat, but there's a piece missing. And I think that when people are more aware of incorporating all of those pieces, then that's where we've seen an uptick in people's health improving and being more mindful of that and what that means.
And what inspired you to become a therapist?
Oh, we're going way back now. I think if I ultimately look at, from what I understood then, what my motivation was and what I understand now are two completely different things, since I've become more woke myself. But back then, I just knew that I always felt good when I was serving other people, and obviously how I serve with better boundaries has changed since I've been more aware of my own boundaries and health. So I always knew that I wanted to serve as sort of the first answer. It's just a matter of what that looked like in a way that I really felt comfortable with, but that I also felt called to.
Yes, right. That's like the most important thing, right? Is to feel that like call, that purpose-driven movement, right, towards something, because then you can really give it like your full give it the full experience, right, with that essence, because you have a passion for it.
And then the other things that you learn over time is that it's not something that you've just done once in this lifetime. It's probably something that you've done repeatedly over decades, centuries, literally, etc. So it feels very familiar to you. Those things come easier to you, and there's a reason.
Yeah, and that's I can totally relate to that, because on my journey in the beginning, when I was, transitioning out of high school to go to university, I was like, okay, so yeah, I'm definitely going to study psychology and become like a cognitive and behavioral psychologist and all of these things. And as I went down the path, I realized, I said, okay, I think that I wanted to do this because I have already done this, and probably it was my most recent incarnation. But I don't think I'm supposed to express it particularly in that way. So I veered off of that. But in the beginning, it was so strong because I believe of that past life energy still entangled in. Yeah. Have you kind of experienced that in your life, like feeling that call from an early age and kind of feeling like, oh, this was, I mean, you just touched on it, but yeah.
I definitely have it, and how and the why has sort of evolved over time as far as what I've learned about myself and how you incorporate that into your everyday life. Actually, I'm going to give you a very long answer to your short
Yeah.
question, so you can just stop me at any time. But I actually have my own podcast, and tomorrow night I'm having someone come on live who does hand analysis. And one of the things that when I had my hand analysis with her, which is fascinating, I would recommend everybody do one because it talks about your life lessons, like why you're here, your gifts, your life purpose, that sort of thing. And one of the marks that she pointed out to me was called a Persephone headline. Have you heard of this?
Slightly, yes. I know a little bit about them.
Well, she had to school me too. So the Persephone was apparently a character in Greek mythology that was the daughter of Ulysses, who was kidnapped by Hades and brought down to live in hell with Hades, and he didn't allow her to leave. So she, I guess, found a way to sort of reframe that and make the best of her situation. So, which, and she said that your gift is to be able to, like, you grew up in a hellish situation that you felt like you couldn't come out of. Now, she didn't know anything about me, and she's saying all these things, right? And then you had to make the best of it, and now your gift is that you teach other people how you did that and how they can also successfully do that in their life. So to find purpose in your pain so that you grow and are happy. And that fascinated me. I was like, wow. I mean, I grew up in an alcoholic home, and it would be with an abusive father, and it would be easy to get stuck in the victimhood of this happened to me and nobody understands, and that sort of thing. But to use that as an opportunity to not only grow but to show others, like, hey, I know exactly where you've been, or I maybe not exactly, but I understand your circumstances, and if I can do this, and I can teach you how to do it. So finding that sort of purpose or opportunity in an adversity, that just blew me away. So I would recommend anybody have. It was so validating, and I was able to start seeing it from a different perspective.
You know, I didn't. I think I've had like my palm checked once, but it was some time ago, and I don't really remember. But it did resonate at the time. But it was, like I said, some years ago. But what I most recently did was like a deep dive into my past lives and my origin story. And I'm like, I can relate to what you're saying right now because, first of all, in this life, I pretty much like relived all of them in a fast track. And it was like, okay, and yeah, it's pretty much the same thing like you said. It's like, oh yeah, we like threw you in this like hurricane and kind of like let you almost drown like 1,000 times and then lifted you back up. And then we threw you in a storm, another storm, and then we set you on fire. And then you walked out on the other side. So you can go back and say to these people who are drowning or caught on fire and all of these things, hey, I made it through, and let me tell you how. So yeah. And I'm like, ooh, I didn't ask for that, but then I guess I did.
Exactly. Right. Our soul makes that agreement
Yeah.
before we come back here to have that experience. Not that we
Yeah.
remember it, but it's freaky because some people can remember it or do remember it. Like, whew.
Yeah, and like I said, I had to do the deep dive to really start, but it was interesting because once I like, it's like cracking a container open. Like once you crack it open, then everything comes out, and I was like, oh, okay, like all this stuff makes sense, and all of these like visions and things, and I'm not crazy, you know.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
It's very validating.
Yes.
But
So
then who
yeah.
do you talk to about it? I mean, you really have to have the right place and people to trust to have those conversations because it sounds crazy.
Yeah. Because that was a good point. Because once I found that out, I mean, it's so exciting, right? To really get a full picture of who you are, not just in this life, but your entire existence, right? Your makeup, your origin story. And so I was excited. I'm like, well, all right, I gotta tell somebody. And so I'm like telling, people closest to me that can kind of relate, but, and they're just like, oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, if you like it, I love it. And I'm like, you don't understand. This is so epic, but you don't get it. So
They have
yeah,
to have their own experience
yes,
to understand that.
yes, absolutely. And so another question. Speaking of soul contracts, um, how do you, I guess, in your profession, see that playing out in patterns and family dynamics and relationships and partnerships?
Who, I mean, again, you have to have people that are open to this for sure.
Right, right.
If they're not open to it, I will talk about it in one. I mean, we all make agreements, right? And let's say we have people who are not open to the idea of soul contracts. You can certainly have that conversation and not call it that, or that, to imply that they made agreements to come down and relate to each other in certain ways. I mean, we all make agreements like, okay, I'll be in a family, I'll be the one that gets in trouble in school and gets all the attention put on me. And then, so that means that nobody else has to agree that they're the problem, because the problem here is me. And if I would just stop doing this, everything would be great. And really, I'm being the scapegoat. That's an agreement that a family makes, although we call these meta agreements, which are agreements that nobody actually says out loud, but it's played out. Right? That's just one example of that. However, I think that our souls, the theory is that we have similar conversations prior to coming to being reincarnated, and say, okay, here's what I need to learn. I need to learn in this lifetime. I really want to work on self-love. And somebody else, another soul that you're connected to, says, I will go with you and play your father in this lifetime and really treat you like crap, so that the only way you're going to find happiness in your life is if you learn self-love. Okay, that's the agreement. You're going to do that for me? I will. I'm going to be the asshole for you. Sorry. That's going to be my job. Okay, we'll do it. And of course, nobody remembers this, but then we come down into earth, and then you have a father or a parent who's an asshole, and then you will not find happiness in your life until you learn self-love first, to the point where it doesn't matter about the other messages that you got from these people who are supposed to unconditionally love you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's powerful, and I agree. And even if people don't feel open enough to relate to that concept, you can, in your profession, I'm sure, explain it to them in a way that they can digest,
There's other words.
easily.
Yes. Yeah.
But I've been finding, if I tie it back to the past life research I did, that also I was looking at my soul contracts, and with my family was something that I had already been working through like my entire life because I'm the middle child and all that craziness and stuff, and had to deal with a lot.
Oh, you're Jan Brady. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. A father was an addict, and just a bunch of things. And so from very early on, I kind of looked at these things and said, okay, and either I want to like steer far away from that, and in order to do that, I have to look at myself and blah, 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 blah. And then further and further I went along the journey. More recently, over the past few years, was healing all of the like mother wounds and but really understanding like, oh, okay, like I totally get this. Like I can really look at the people in my family for the contracts that they are, and not the trauma.
And it also allows you to find forgiveness
Yes.
and gratitude, almost, which is that's another stretch, right? But I forgive you for this because I know that you're just playing out what we agreed to, number one. But number two, thank you
Yeah.
for those lessons. Those are tough. That takes a lot. That's
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah, it is tough. But as you said, once you can get to that point, it's like the amount of relief that you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then also it's almost like magic how the relationships, the dynamics shift, you know, when you come from that place of I understand you, I know it's not like truly like personal, you're trying to, you know, knock me down or whatever. I understand that there are things that we need to accomplish in this life, and
Mm-hmm.
in order to do that, you know, it has to play out a certain way. But then that changes your perspective, and so therefore that changes the energy of the relationship. And yeah,
Well, it does, especially because most of the time the people that you have those agreements with don't understand what you're going through and what you're talking about. So they're like, "What? You're okay, you're nuts." Like they want to continue to play out those roles and you're done with it.
yeah,
So, there's when you're no longer stay with that agreement and you're ready to move past it, they sometimes you become the black sheep because you're not agreeing to stay in that role, whatever that is.
yeah, that's been my whole life, right? It's just always something. And but I do remember the one thing from the read was that my life was about transformation, constant transformation. I'm like, fun.
Like that sounds exhausting, really.
Yeah, it is. I can't lie. So let's talk about your book, Cut the Shit. And yeah, I love the concept of this, right? And pretty much that's where I've been at in the past 3 years of my life. Like snip, snip, everything. Cut right through it. So tell me about the inspiration for that.
Oh, wow. I when I started to embrace my spirituality, which was we're maybe going back 10 years or so ago now, which is a whole story that is in that book. But what I started to notice is that, well, back in grad school, I remember this concept that they constantly talked about, which is that most of the time when you have people to come to see you for therapy or change, their intended solutions made their problems worse. So most people are there not because of their problems, but because they attempted to do things to fix their problems, which actually made the circumstances way worse. So, like a quick example of that would be, hey, I have trouble sleeping. Well, what are you doing to try to go back to sleep? Well, when I wake up, I would just try to lay there and I'd stare at my ceiling, or I would get up and drink hot milk, or I'd get up and try reading for a while. Well, is it possible that all those things was actually keeping you from being able to safely go back to sleep? So now they can't go back to sleep for hours. Just that's a kind of a rough example of that. And what I started to notice is that the biggest thing that I was seeing over and over again in my practice is that one thing that a lot of my clients had in common was that their solution was, I'm going to tell the people in my life how screwed up they are and what I need them to do differently so that I can be happy. And then I was noticing there were patterns that I was noticing. Oh, here's that same example of them asking other people to change, and it took different forms. And I noticed over time that it would be the same. It would I'd see these same patterns emerging. And one time I just was like, after a session, I was like, yep, there's that pattern again. This example of blah blah blah. And I heard a voice in my head that said, "When are you going to write these down?" And I was like, oh, you know what? I really should, because I had never formally written down these patterns, or what the rules is what I call them in the book. So I wrote them down, and I ended up coming up with 13 different patterns that I was seeing that were all sort of sub-examples of this I ask other people to do things differently so that I can be happy solution. And I was like, wow, and I know now that those, I was intuitively guided to come up with those because I had been noticing them over like years. And it was actually, it was actually my first spiritual mentor several years ago who kind of talked about, I really wanted to write a book. And when you have these discussions with somebody who's more, spiritually aware and evolved, that can put those questions to you. She never said, I never told her that I was having these patterns, but I started to become aware of well, maybe there's a reason that I'm seeing these patterns. Maybe I'm really supposed to do something with this.
Yeah.
And that's what the inspiration was. So these are 14 ways that people unknowingly or very knowingly are expecting other people to change so that they can be happy. And of course, that's a sabotage, because other people are not going to change so that you can be happy. So basically what you're saying is, I want to be miserable, and I want to always have an excuse for why I'm miserable, because you won't do what I'm asking you to do. My kids won't clean up after themselves. My husband won't pay more attention to me. My boss won't recognize my worth. All these things. And that just keeps, that pattern just keeps repeating in their life. And when they stop and they are more mindful of that and start talking about what can I do differently and what do I need to change, that's when you'll start to see improvements in the quality of your life.
Oh yes, I I think you definitely divinely got it to write that, because a lot of people need to hear that. It's only you can make yourself happy. You cannot, if you're anything is tied to anything else.
Well, here's
You're gonna
the
be
other
miserable.
piece, right? I mean, that is really a form of you giving away your power. So if this is my power, this is my play toy. If this is my power, here, I'll give this to you. And if you do what I need you to do with it, I can be happy. Hell no. You are giving your power away. And so, of course, when you give your power away, you're going to feel exhausted, taken advantage of, guilty, sad, all of the things, victimized. None of which are, synonymous with improving the quality of your life.
Absolutely, and I think so many people need to hear that.
It's
Especially
tough.
people. Yeah, it is tough, especially if you're like a people pleaser, right? And so I was for a long period of my life. I'm kind of weird because I like people please until I get to the point where I'd be like, no, and then I'll just completely like shift gears. But for that was then. Now these past however many years, like 3-4 years now, I've worked through a lot, but that was really hard for me to like I said, I was a middle child, so I was made to like, I was caught in the middle. My older sisters had children, and then I had younger sisters who were like way younger than me, like 10-15 year gap. So I was like stuck being a caretaker to everyone, and then putting myself on the back burner, and it's like family first all the time. It's like, I want to help, like I want to be helpful, I want to be useful because I want to be loved, and it was like I had to cut all of that, and I
And
started
you
cutting
find
it by
yourself
running
worth.
away.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the thing, right? Because the hard part about that is you do enjoy being of service to other people. That does fill your cup, as long as you can find a way to do that with some harmony in your own
Right.
life.
Right. And like I said, these past 4 years, I've really had to dive deep into my family dynamic to help me shift into, transform again into this new phase of my life. And that was one of the things of really strengthening. Like I was telling another guest, I ran into a book, maybe it's been maybe 8-9 years ago now. Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that helped me with the beginning of putting up boundaries with my family, which was hard. It was hard to say no. It was hard to be like, if I don't help them, they'll be all right.
And most families don't say, "Oh, we're so happy for you that you're making boundaries," and are like, "No, wait, but what do you can do that? You just can't say no to me."
Right. Exactly right. So, what do you think emotional accountability looks like in relationships, whether it be family relationships, romantic relationships, friendships?
We all have free will. And I think what you're referring to is if we make people feel a certain way. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like, see if I can come up with an example. Okay, now here's an example from my own life, right?
Yep.
And we'll preface this by saying what you said earlier is, we are accountable for our own emotions, right? Our own lives. However, when you're entering partnerships, it's good to have those open lines of communications, whether it's friends, family, whoever. I was an experience in my life where I had these two roommates, and one of them just had extremely toxic energy. They were really like a walking tornado. And she would do stuff and it'd be like, she had a kid. I'm like, you gotta think about your kid, but she was just like emotionally immature, emotionally unstable. So she would never own up to how she would make her child feel. So in situations like that, like, especially I guess in a parent kid child dynamic, and also actually in partnerships as well. What is a healthy level of emotional accountability?
So if I were working, let's say I was your roommate, came into therapy or came in and looking for some assistance. I mean, first there has to be an awareness. I would screen anybody and say, what's their readiness? What's their level of
She wasn't ready.
where there are right. So unfortunately, there's not much you can do if somebody does not have the awareness. I would probably here's between you and me. I would really find if somebody's really not there in their journey, there's not a whole lot that I'm going to be able to do from them. It's like somebody who starts, you mentioned addiction. It's like somebody who starts AA, but they're not willing to take step one, to admit that there's an issue. They're not in a place where they're ready to take accountability for themselves. So I would find a way to say, like, this doesn't seem to be the right fit for you right now. And I'm certainly not in a place where I'm going to agree with where you are in that right now. I don't agree with that, and I'm not going to pretend to agree with that just so I don't lose a client. Like, it's really not serving me, and it's not serving you. If you're talking about in a way that I am seeing you, who's coming to me and saying, my roommate is stressing me out, and what can I do about this? Again, if there's, you would have to make your own boundaries, and clearly you're recognizing that it's triggering some stuff in you. First of all, you don't want to see that because you want to be able to help this child. But second of all, it's probably also triggering some stuff from your childhood, feeling like you remember what it's like to be that kid, and how do I not save this kid? What can I do?
Yeah, that was an interesting situation for me because I was like, not really for my situation. I can say compared to my two roommates, I was like, oh, I think you guys make it look like I grew up in like the Cosby Family. I was like, well, this is some rough stuff. But, just as a nurturing person and like a protector for a child, I'm like, how can I help you not like shield you a little bit from this? And I'm like, but that's your mother. I can only do so much while I'm here. But maybe I can give you like some tools to take with you.
I mean, there's also a part of you that maybe remembers being that child and wishing that somebody did step in.
Yeah. And
also, if we go back to the notion of soul contracts,
well,
if you do that, maybe you're interrupting whatever that child, whatever their dynamic is and whatever they need to learn. It's tough to stay out of that. Now, obviously, if there's true abuse going on, something that is reportable, that's a whole different story.
Right. No, it was just a lot of energy. I was like, ooh, like, see you guys later.
But here's the thing, right? You, before you even were spiritually aware, you understood the impact that was having on your body. You felt that energy. And that's when, that's how I ask people to begin to be more aware of their intuition, is like, what did you feel? See how when I said that, I put my hand here? When people express that, they usually put their hand wherever that impacts their body. Like when they do this, I'm like, you felt like a heaviness, like it came in on your chest, as an example.
Yeah, you're so right. because of energy frequencies, we do feel that first. And yeah, that's usually a little something telling you, hey, pay attention to me.
Yes. And because if you don't, it gets louder.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so what's one truth we're taught about love that you think needs to be unlearned?
That you have to be worthy of it, that you have to earn it.
Yes. I think a lot of people struggle with that one as well. Oh.
Yes, you don't need to be worthy of it, and it's not conditional. And probably the biggest one is it needs to start here. Because if you don't love yourself, no matter what you get from anybody else, it's never going to feel like enough.
Yeah, that's so right. And like what you said about love is unconditional, like real, true love. And it does start with unconditional love for yourself. And then you just magnetize that back to yourself. But yeah, I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. I know I hear some stories and I'm like, in what world could you possibly stay? Like, for example, you hear a lot about abusive relationships and how the person will stay through a lot and sometimes to the end. And it's like, you know, that's, I can't understand that you don't like can't find the love in yourself enough to move on from something like that.
And you know, when you say that to people, when you say clearly you don't love yourself enough to make a statement that you don't deserve that anymore, that's where people really well up because they don't think of it that way. And they don't feel like they're deserving of that. So that's where that's the term codependency, is that I need you. I need to get my validation of who I am from you. And if you think I'm okay, if I've done enough for you, that's what I need to validate me. But the problem is it's never enough.
Still blaming Mercury retrograde for your breakups? The Council has reviewed your case file. Spoiler, it's not the stars, it's you.
The Intergalactic Council presents the Soul Contract Clarification Service, now offering fine print translation, karmic loophole audits, and unlimited mirror upgrades for stubborn patterns.
Learn to spot your triggers, choose your healing, stop outsourcing your growth to your partner's bad habits. Side effects may include uncomfortable accountability, surprisingly healthy boundaries, and the radical relief of finally choosing yourself. Relationships are mirrors. Stop wiping the glass, start cleaning the reflection.
Sponsored by the Intergalactic Council. Accountability optional.
Woo, yeah, you're right. And, you know, that's why I feel like this wave this year and this kind of next 20 or so years is really teaching people about coming back to themselves, really, really loving yourself, really embracing yourself, really being your authentic self. But you have to, what I find for all the people that were like already ready, it's like we gotta snatch away everything, all that little last remnants of any of the traumas that are holding you back from stepping into this new energy is like getting put on a fast track. And you're like, you got to work through that real quick. But yeah, I feel the love, you know.
And that's something that to start with yourself, you have to close your eyes and kind of really put your hand on your heart and really breathe into that. Like take a deep breath through your nose and feel the love in your heart for yourself. You got to start there.
Yeah, my meditation I do every day, I close it out with at least 5 minutes just listening with my hands to my heart, just really being present in that moment and like feeling that. And it's amazing how much motion you get just by, touching,
Yes. I think the hardest part is, you always draw people to you that have your same energy, right? And all the people the energy that you're putting out there, and all the people I draw to me have ADHD because I have ADHD. And when I realized that, like, when that movie, the Bruce Willis movie, where he realizes at the end that he's actually dead. That
Yes.
Sixth Sense.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Right? Like you kind of like you're like, everybody. Why does everybody around me have ADHD? And you're like, holy shit! It's because
Do I
I
have
have ADHD. What the hell? Right? And so when you tell people who have ADHD, just spend some quiet time with your hand on your heart. They're like, what? I can't stand still for 5 minutes. Well, you know what? Okay, you can do that. You don't have to be sitting still. You could be doing the dishes, or you could just walk outside for 5 minutes and walk around your house. It doesn't have to be this whole drawn out. I sit here for an hour with my music playing type of thing. Obviously, you would get more from that, but it doesn't have to be something. You don't have to do yoga for an hour, because this will be me doing yoga. I'll be like, damn, it's only been 10 minutes. I have to get gas in my car.
Right.
I have to pick up some milk.
Some days, yeah, I do have like squirrel mind, and I have to do like just even if I could do 5 minutes, but I do start each day with walks, and I feel like if you do have a problem, like you said, sitting there and meditating and walking in nature is like the best thing you can do.
Yes.
Yeah. Just
Absolutely.
being out in the elements.
If you talk about what is your favorite place or ask anybody, 10 people, what's your favorite place? Most people are going to report someplace like, but the ocean, or what they usually describe someplace outside. And there's a reason for that. It's very healing to be with nature. It grounds you.
Yes, exactly right. And I definitely need all the grounding I can get, because I'm like, I'll just be all over the place.
Do you have ADHD?
I don't know. I don't claim it, but
We'll just call it other things.
yes, I just have a overactive mind.
Yes,
Okay.
whatever we call it. Whatever we call it. It's fine.
A lot of tabs open, but yes.
Yes. Exactly.
Oh, so speaking on, let's talk about choice. We spoke on that earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And why do you think the concept of choice is so radical when it comes to healing?
Well, one of the universal laws, people know the laws of abundance and like the laws of attraction. There's a law of free will. Yes, we have certain guidance, but ultimately, spiritually, nobody can mess with our free will. So if we want to do something, we're going to do it. And some people say, "Oh, if things are meant to be, they'll come to you." Well, that negates on some level free will, because if you want it, then you go out and get it, because it's not just going to come to you because you're supposed to get it. You also have to meet the energy of that. Mm-hmm. If you want to be president and you're supposed to be president, you're not just going to be president because it was supposed to be. Like, you have to do certain things to meet the universe where they're at.
Right. And I think when I first started like actively watching spiritual stuff, because my journey was very insular. I spent a lot of time in solitude. And so then I had to like acclimate to the world and be like, okay, so what's going on in this spiritual world? And the first thing I ran into, manifestation. Oh, I said I won $1 million 3 times, and then I manifested. And I'm like, wait, what? And it's like, oh, okay. So they're like skipping over all of the work that you like. So I just was like, people are going to miss the fact that, yeah, it takes intention. It takes putting the energy out there, but also
Yes.
in that, it takes movement.
You have to, it's already there in your field. You just have to match the energy of it to bring it towards you.
Yes. And sometimes that looks like you get idea in your head to do that thing that leads you to that manifestation. It's not just like, oh, I want it, and so there it is. There's a process. But if we think about that, nothing in life works like that. Something that would seem like it's magic, for example, if I picked up my remote and turned on the TV, the TV came on. But inside, the remote also needs batteries. It also needs a circuitry system. And it also needs to shoot off signals and ping, and it needs infrared, and all these things had to take place just for that TV to come turn on. So yeah. I agree.
And intention is usually step one.
Yes, because you gotta wanna do it, right? Yes. So, if your empowered self had a theme song, what would it be, and what is the first lyric that hits you? Like, yes, this is my song.
Whew. That's funny because I think that spirit talks to me through songs a lot. I just get a song in my head. And sometimes it's a song that I've never even heard. I'm like, I don't know what this song is. And I didn't understand that for a long time. Let me see. I really need to think about that. 'Cause I think it depends on what space I'm in for that particular day. Let me think about... what came to me when I said that, and I'm just going to say it because clearly that's what it's not. This is not every day, but today the lyrics for Christina Aguilera's is it Genie in a Bottle? Is that what it comes up?
Okay.
Because I really need to although the song says you have to rub me the right way, right? I'm thinking, that kind of goes along with the theme of what we're talking about, is that there is magic out there, but you do have to rub the bottle the right way. And it's magic that's, where someone once asked, if people think, oh, do you think you're special? Yeah, I do. I know I'm special, right? And that sounds horrible because you can't say that. You can't just go around telling everybody that you're special. Well, why not? Because I'm told, we're told that we are all loved unconditionally by spirit, by God, or whatever the being is that you're going to call that. But me, it's like we're told not to say that because that means I'm not saying I'm special, meaning that you're not.
Right.
It doesn't take away from you. You're special too. I'm just saying that I know that I am. And if you start there, and there's the magic. Rub it the right way, and you're gonna get what's the wishes in your bottle. But there's not. It's not endless. That's what's coming to me today. That's not every day, but today.
Yeah, and I love that. That so relevant, and absolutely, it's funny because spirit, universe, source, whatever, speaks to me through music as well. And this morning, it was so weird. I had this melody in my head, and it was like, nothing I remember hearing ever. It's not like a song that I know or
you're like,
anything
I don't
ever.
know this song. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so normally I wouldn't sing it, but I say, you know what? I'm feeling, I'm just gonna sing what's going on in my head. And I'm just like, and then it was like an activation. And so once I started singing, I started getting all these visions. I'm like, oh,
Downloads.
Okay, yes.
And you have to allow that. And my guess is that many of the songs that are out there are probably received that way. Are you going to accept this download?
Yes.
People who write, blockbuster movies, they probably all came from someplace.
Yeah. And yes, I absolutely agree with that. I feel like exactly what you said. You get that. First of all, I feel like there is nothing we can think of that doesn't already exist. Maybe not in this timeline or dimension, but it exists somewhere, right? Because nothing is really. That's a whole nother topic. But I feel like there's this vast source of energy that we can all constantly pull from. And so, as you said, when we come up with an idea for a book, a song, art, anything, it's being downloaded here. And the difference between artists or creators and those who aren't are creators are the ones who act upon them. Creators are the ones who are open to receive that. And like I said, if you're open to receive it, then you're open to act upon it most of the time. Not all the time, but most of it. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, you're allowing yourself to tap into that wisdom and going with it. And it's like healers. It's flowing through you. And are you going to allow the flow?
Exactly. And then also to touch on what you said earlier about, being in that space where you can just come to people and be like, look, I'm different, I'm special, I'm chosen, I'm whatever, and really owning that and, recognizing or not letting people act from their own place of trauma to be like, why are you think you're special, more special than me? And like, I never said that.
That you know what, I can't help but see those patterns in how people interact with each other, and this is how rumors get started. Like, oh, look at LA, she thinks she's so great that she's blah blah blah. I'm like, did she say that? Well, no, but she's acting like it. Well, how? And it's not, the thing is, it's not your stuff. It really is showing way more about them and where they're stuck in their triggers than it is about you. But that's how rumors are started.
Yeah, that's powerful. And also, with the age of social media, you see that a lot. It's like, if everyone could just stay in their own lane, not worry about what the next person is doing, because it's enough about, like, if people could understand it, it's enough to go around. We don't gotta fight to the death.
Yes. So first of all, we are allowed to charge for our spiritual gifts, right? Because some people have a notion of, if this is a gift, then you shouldn't charge for it. Well, okay, so I'm in New England. I'm pretty sure that Tom Brady had a gift and he didn't have any problem getting paid for it. And nobody had any problem paying for tickets to go see him. So why are we considered, we're not supposed to get paid for our gifts?
Right.
So,
And I had to learn a lot, like I said, my life is about transformation. But I was born and raised as a Jehovah's Witness. And
oh, okay.
yeah, in that, it's like, I like to call it a doomsday poverty cult. But in that, it's like you are not allowed to be anything other than a humble, faithful, discreet slave. And so one, I came out different. I'm like very different. I cannot hide it. And so it's like, what do you want me to do about this? And then on top of that, in my family dynamic, everyone else kind of like overshadowed me, getting lost in the sauce. And it's like, okay, I had to learn so much about self-worth. I had to learn so much about just really being proud of who I am and accepting who I am authentically, even if I acted it out, because I didn't really have a choice. But internally, I was like, and it took, like I said, 3 or 4 years ago for me to really work through that self-love, the self-worth situation, and being like, okay, I have these gifts, talents, skills, and abilities, and I can, put them out there and lean into that heavy and charge for it, and not feel guilty, not feel like, oh, you have to give up everything of yourself because you're a faithful, discreet slave. I had to really unlearn a lot of that.
Yeah, check in with your ego, right?
Yeah. So, I think that just being able to own your gifts is really that first step into that metamorphosis, because once you allow yourself to be like, okay, these are the gifts, the abilities, the skills that I have. Now you can hone it. Yeah. And now that's your superpower, right?
And people will ask me all the time, how can you give me a reading and tell me what I'm supposed to do? Right? And here's the truth, like, you're not supposed to be anything. You have free will. So it's more about figuring out what are the things that you enjoy doing. I could say, well, it says here you're supposed to be a snake charmer. You're like, oh, I hate snakes. Well, that's too bad. You're never going to have fun in your life because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Like, it doesn't work that way. There's nothing you're supposed to be doing. What do you enjoy doing? And you'll feel that in your body when it's like, this just feels so comfortable to me. Like, I feel like I've always been doing it. And you probably have.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But also, I feel like, I feel like we absolutely have choice, and I feel like any choice or decision we make kind of opens up, another ripple, another timeline, another possibility of things. It's endless possibilities depending on the choices that you make. But sometimes I found out in my own life that no matter what choices I've made, it may have led me, like, maybe veered off the course, but it always brought me right to where I was supposed to be. And sometimes it took me a long time to figure it out. But then I'll be like, oh, wait, wow. I mean, I kind of took a long scenic route, but I still ended up here. And so, yeah, what do you think about the
I
concept of, like,
that's one indication that you're probably in the right place, is that you still keep coming back to the same place.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, but like you said, though, we all have choices, and like I said, any choice that you make automatically opens up like a new timeline.
More
So
tabs.
nothing is fit. Yeah, yeah. And so I tell people all the time with tarot, like, this is what it means right now. Like, right here, right now, in this very second. But in 10 minutes, it might mean something else, So don't hold on too tightly to that.
So many people want to be told what they need to do.
I guess that's society, right? Raised a bunch of cogs in the machine.
Well, it's just easier if you don't have to do the work. Just tell me what I need to do. Well, I can, but that doesn't mean that it's right for you, that it fits for you personally. The only person
Right.
who can figure that out is you. So anybody who tells you that they'll tell you that you might be able to, well, you're supposed to do healing work, right? But what kind, how is that going to play out for you? That's something that you have to figure out.
Yeah, exactly. And just say on that note, just like we were talking about in the beginning, how we have these memories from our lives, and we come into the next life, and we automatically feel the pull, the draw, but how does that look? And that's why when I originally started the path, as a child, and then I was trying to figure out life in high school, like, okay, do I want to be a psychologist, or how does, like, I always knew that I wanted to help people, but just how was the thing. And so, for me, I feel like I like to experiment a lot. So I feel like just try different stuff to figure out what works for you. But life doesn't have to be so rigid. I found that out. It doesn't have to be rigid. It is not static. And it might not look like how you think it does, whatever your gift is.
Well, letting go of control is definitely a big theme too. Put out into the universe what you want, and then let the universe figure out how it's going to come to you. And miracles happen. Things that you never thought were going to happen.
But like you said, the key is release.
Let go of control.
It's like that example of planting seeds, right? And you plant the seed, and then the next day you're like, did it grow?
Well, so I have an example of this in my life. Have you seen the TikTok video that Matt Rife put out of our exchange? He and I had an exchange.
No.
So last April, Matt Rife was coming into town. He was doing a gig at a very small comedy club. It's like 250 seats. Now I found out later that he actually bought a house here in Rhode Island, so he likes the air, and he's since done a lot of gigs in a place called the Comedy Connection. But at the time, I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I was telling my husband, I said, I'm gonna take my book, and a lot of times because this place is so small, they'll do like a little meet and greet, like you know wait in line and you can take pictures with the comedian or whatever, which we've done a bunch of times. I said, well, he's doing this event there. I'm not going to ask why because it's so tiny, right? Like he had just worked Foxwoods, like the local casino, like 2 weeks before that at $300 a head, 2 weeks before that. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to question it because we scored some tickets somehow. So I'm going to bring my book. I'm going to hope that they do a little meet and greet, and I'm going to be like, here's me and Matt Rife cutting the shit, right? So that's how I envisioned it. And there's no assigned seat, so we sat down before he came in, and I had my book in front of me, and the woman next to me is like, "Oh, what's that?" And I'm telling her my whole idea. I had never met her before. I'm telling her my whole idea, and the first thing that they do when they make the announcements is say that you can't put out your phone. Everybody has to put their phone away. There's no pictures. There's no recordings. And I'm like, oh boy, shit. I hope that they still do a meet and greet afterwards, because otherwise, why did I bring this book? So he comes on. And we have to have our phones away. And the first thing he says is, I don't have a set tonight. This event is called crowd work. So I'm just going to put like a concept out there, and I don't have anything planned. I don't have a set. So I'm just going to ask this question and we see how it goes. And so if this thing sucks tonight, it's your fault. That's how he started it. And he says, anybody out there, I want to know what your dreams are. Did anybody out there have a dream? And the woman next to me took my arm and put it up. And I was like, oh, so he said to me, okay, what's your dream? And I was like, well, I have my book, and I'm not going to ruin it because from then on, I had no idea that his staff was taping our whole interaction. So he's like, oh, you have a book for me? Bring it up. And, I got him he held up the book, and so everybody there saw, oh, Cut the Shit by Rebecca Nelson. And I was like, whoa, what's happening? So I sit down, and afterwards, and he was like fascinated by like kind of some of the same things that we're talking about, and I didn't realize that his grandfather had passed away, and he's like, do you have any messages from my grandfather? And I'm like, oh, this is so not where I wanted this to go right now. This is not what I came here for. Plus I had like a couple martinis. I'm like, this is not this place for this, right? I was not expecting all this. So that was like amazing. We were like, whoa, what just happened? And he just kept going with it. And I'm like, please move on to somebody else, because it's supposed to be a comedy show. That was last April, right? It's been a year. A couple months later, in August, one of my clients messaged me and said, hey, is it going to cost me more money to see you now because you're so famous? Ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So it turns out that his staff had taped that whole interaction. And he put it up on his TikTok. And it was 8 minutes long. You can still find it, right? This was just back in August. He put the whole thing up, and I'm watching it. I didn't even have TikTok at the time, so I had to get TikTok. And I'm watching, and I'm like, oh my God, right? Because I was just so like, I didn't get to do the meet and greet. I didn't get any pictures, but I'm like, holy shit, look at this. Like, that is so much bigger than anything I could have imagined. But I manifested that. But I had to put out the effort. I went with the intention of something's going to happen with this Matt Wright thing and this book, and wow, did it. Huge.
I'm so glad that you shared that story, because I feel like that is the perfect example of manifestation and how things work, right?
And letting go of control.
Exactly.
I had a thought about how it was going to go, and they're like, no, sit down. We are going to take care of this.
Right. Because sometimes I think we get so stuck, and it's like the universe is like, oh, you don't know. You have no idea. We have something way better that you can't even imagine planned for you. So whatever you're doing, just relax.
The Red Sea does not always get parted, right? It's not always like that, but there are always little. I mean, I have lots of stories that are like that are like, holy shit, story, but that was probably one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, I mean, it starts out small, and honestly, I feel like every day you can find one little manifestation that you manifested that you probably forgot about if you just were like aware. And it's like the little stuff, you know.
But
Like
of course, there are people, what we were talking about earlier? There are people that are commenting on there that I had to stop reading because it was driving me crazy. Like, oh, look at her. She thinks she's so, oh, if you have a therapist that's also a medium, then get yourself a new therapist and she's a quack and she's a fake and whatever. And I'm like, I didn't go there saying that my goal was to read your grandfather or to do a mediumship at all. I came here with my book. So that's like, I didn't say that, but all these people are commenting on it. I'm like, well, that's about your crap, not me, because I never said I came here for that.
But
You
the one
know?
thing I noticed though, and which I had to learn to embrace starting my putting myself out there on social media journey, it's like I had to like change my perspective and be like, okay, so when you trigger people, that means you're doing something right. So no matter how people are coming at you right now, they jealous or they just want to, you say like, you know, people really like want to find every little, like let you stutter on a word or say the word, it's over. But people will come for you. But that is a good sign, you know, that you're actually hitting something, like you're touching them in some kind of way. And just like that taught me to like not don't react.
It's just remember, it says more about them than it says anything about you.
Yeah, yeah. So now when I get those negative comments or whatever, I just like, oh, you know, I'm
I've
doing something.
arrived.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I honestly don't check the comment. Like I do my best not to check, because I just, you know, I am a sensitive soul. So if I read it, I will feel all the energy you felt when you typed it, and I don't got time for that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep. They can put it out there, but are you going to receive it? That's your choice,
exactly right.
right?
I'll give it no energy.
It's tough.
It is tough, especially I'm from Jersey. I got a mouth. I want to.
No
Like,
comments. I'm not
no.
commenting on it.
Woodstock. Don't do it. Like, because I'll get myself into a bigger situation that I don't need to get into. So, you know, it's best for me to just keep my mouth shut.
I hear that.
Yeah. All right. So, to bring this full circle for what we talked about, like, what would you say to people who may feel like they're trapped by their circumstances, their surroundings, and they're not able to really embrace or own who they are? Maybe, you know, it's a mix of internal and external circumstances. Maybe they're feeling emotionally stunted. What would you say to those people who are really trying to break through but can't seem to?
I feel like the answer to that is going to be triggering, that you always have choices. I mean, there are situations where there are less choices or opportunities than other times, but you're going to have plenty of experiences, or there are plenty of examples of people who make different choices. That doesn't mean that the choices are easy or that they're going to come to you. And I would always suggest that people get a mentor, because you need a guide to show you the path to those choices. It's like if you're stuck in the middle, someone plopped you in the middle of the desert, there's somebody who's an expert on that desert and said, you can get out of here if you want, but you're going to have to, follow me. And it might be uncomfortable. And are you willing to do that?
Yeah, and I that's why I really do appreciate how accessible therapy has become over these past few years, because a lot of people need it.
But yes, you need a guide.
Yes,
For sure.
yes. But for that purpose, say if you don't have people in your life, then I definitely like go to therapy. Because as you said, you do need someone holding that lantern for you in the dark, so that you know that you're not just stuck there, and there actually is a direction to move into. And also, yes, I agree with the choice. And I also agree, like, it may not feel like sometimes you may feel like you don't have any choice. I've felt a lot of those moments in my life. Like, oh my God, like, there is no choice. And the choice was to go inward and change your perspective, or go inward and find another solution. Maybe go inward and be still so you can receive the clarity for whatever move you need to make next. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a big external choice, like, oh, if you're in a bad situation, all you have to do is leave. Sometimes it's not like that.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Or with parents, the choice is I'm just going to stop talking to my parents. Well, I'm not ready to do that. Well, there's other things you can do besides either I've engaged with them the way that we are, or I just stop talking to them. And I think that people think on a black or white scale. I either do this or I do this. Well, no, there's things in between that you can do. And that's, again, you need a guide sometimes because it's hard to see what those in between things are.
Yes, I will say that my therapist definitely helped me with my mommy issues. Because I was trying, and I was like, I can't. She's triggering me way too much. I need help. Mm-hmm. And so now, when I see the triggers, it just floats on by. Just like, I see you.
Well, you make a good point, because when people say that someone triggered me, what I would do is change that, because that's the first thing you're going to do is change your language around that. They didn't trigger you. You allowed that to trigger you. Because, again, that's giving your power away.
Yes,
Did you trigger me? Here you go. No, I decided that I was going to engage in that. And then that's exactly where you start to take the first step in taking your power back.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I haven't changed that word trigger, because my mom sure likes to push the limits.
She invites you to the ring and you decide whether you're going to...
I've decided many times I don't see any invitation. I don't see it. And you know what? I had to learn, because it looks different for everyone. And for my mother, what works is ignoring her. That works. It is. It's like when she starts inviting me, I just swoosh, and then she's just like, oh, you're not giving me any energy? And then she moves on. And I'm like, okay.
Like, I waited how many years to try that?
Yeah, 30. Well, I started working on this last year. So 36 years. Yeah. But, yeah, but all that to say, yeah, we do always have choices, and we do need help sometimes, and a lot of times, especially now. There's a lot going on. So, yeah, we definitely need a support group. I think that's really important.
It's helpful to have a mentor, a guide. It's also helpful to have a community.
Yeah. And so on that note, where does the universe guide you next?
I just joined up with my own community, and I've had a series of communities that have supported me in different areas of my journey, and I just joined up with the Transformation Network, so I could start doing my podcast episodes again. That's the support that I needed right now.
All right. And what is the name of your podcast, and where can people find you?
It is called, thank you for asking, it's called Intuition Unleashed, a revolution in personal liberation. And you can find it on my website, which is becknelson.com, and then find the tab that says podcast. You'll find the updated episodes there. Thank you for asking. But also on all my social medias. I usually, like tomorrow night is my next episode with the hand analysis guide, Lindsay Morlock. Can't wait for that. It's because these are usually people that have had an impact on my life and like that holy crap moment, and I want to be able to share that with other people so they can have access to that guidance as well.
Awesome work. And everyone, you can scan that QR code to take you to all of the links.
Ooh, thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much for joining me today, traveling out here on this beautiful cosmos.
I appreciate being invited into the ship. Thank you.
Thank you. And until next time, guys, this has been another transmission.
Okay, but like, what if that was like my soul twin? Like we're energetic twins. I love that. I found A soul twin.
Manifestation complete. Connection established.
Where to next, Arden?
Transmission complete. Final echoes logged. Emotional residue cleared. We have reached the threshold. DBPC archive sealed. Initiating void protocol. Next stop, undefined. Frequency unknown. Let go of what you thought was yours. The void